move to your screen at all. Okay. So let's have a little lie down, as most of you are already doing that here in the room. We can join you. So we'll just come down, we'll bring the feet to the floor. We'll take our arms out wide. And we'll close our eyes and we'll settle the breath. So to settle the breath might require you to take a deeper breath or two, first of all. Slow, deep breath. And just really give and feel how the body, that sort of deflation of the body as we exhale, is a softening of the body. And we can give to that softening. So although a little more engagement will come back into the body when you inhale again, each time there's a little bit more softness, hopefully, with each breath. And here with the feet on the floor, so if you've got your legs extended, I'd like you to bend your knees and place your feet to the floor. We're going to feel into a couple of contact points in particular. In fact, maybe we'll feel into 3. So we'll feel into the soles of the feet. And then we'll feel into the sacrum. So at the back of the pelvis, you can feel that sort of flat, kind of bony plate that is positioned between the buttocks. It's just above the tailbone. It's the lower portion of the spine. We should be able to feel that there's a fairly deep contact with the sacrum and the floor here. And then our third point of awareness here is going to be the contact that we have, whether it's with the floor or a lift under our head, of the back of the skull against the floor. So we can kind of feel into this area at the base of the skull. We can feel into the sacrum, and we can feel into the feet. So these are going to be our 3 contact points, but we'll particularly pay attention now to the sacrum and the back of the skull. So we can play with a little bit of movement. You will feel this across the feet. Little gentle rocking across the sacrum, not too strong, not too wide, and a little gentle movement across the back of the head. And we can kind of feel into this movement from side to side as a means of pulling us into the center. And then we pause there once we find the center. I'd like us to feel into the flow of the breath, and I'd like to feel into the flow of the breath between these 2 points in particular, but you may even feel it down to the feet as well. So I'd like to feel that the breath draws in, and we can feel that the breath kind of almost flows on the inhalation from the back of the skull down to the sacrum. And on the exhalation, it flows up from the sacrum to the back of the skull. We link these 2 points with the breath, like a wave just coming into the shore of the beach. It rolls up and down, and that wave merges back with the ocean as it returns, and we can feel this with the breath. There is a sense of merging with, the bigger picture, merging with the space around us. Each time the breath returns, each time we let the exhalation move back into this space around us, we kind of stay with the breath. So we merge with that. Now we can feel into a little movement, which is going to be a little rolling up and down the pelvis, rolling up and down the sacrum. So this is where the feet come into play. So there's a little depth through the feet, and we rock down the sacrum so the lower back will lift as you roll towards the tailbone. And then we rock back again, and you can feel the movement of the head up and down your yoga mat, a little slide there at the back of the skull. And a little undulation that moves through the spine, in particular through the lumbar, the lower spine at the back of the waist. And we'll just keep rolling between the lift of the lumbar and the lowering of the lumbar. And as we roll between that lift and lowering, I want you to feel that movement against the back of the head. The pressure through the feet. And the whole of the body coming into this. Okay, let's come to pause. Feel into any movement that you might need across the back of the head, any movement across, again, the pelvis, the body. You can have a little sort of wiggle, a little shimmy across the floor here. And then we're going to draw in the knee. So you can draw in the knee that is closest to me, closest to this side of the room. Draw it in towards you. And we'll extend out the other leg. So just reach that leg to the floor. Now let's take hold of the knee or the shin, or hold behind the thigh, and just pull that leg in for a moment. And we'll play with maybe a little movement from side to side. And then what we're going to do with this leg is we're going to keep hold of the knee with the opposite hand. So you can release the same arm as this leg and just bring it to the floor. So you're holding the knee with the opposite hand. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to let the knee pull out to the side. So it's pulling out to the side, it's opening, it's not a twisting action as we might sometimes do, but you're letting the knee come out to the side with the opposite hand holding. And then I want you to feel the contact that you have through your shoulder blade, the one that's in contact with the floor. One of your shoulder blades will be lifted from the floor and one of them will be in contact with the floor. And from that point of contact with the shoulder blade, I want you to feel a little extension as the knee pulls out to the side that kind of wraps across the back around this outer shoulder and then feeds back in across the front of the chest or down the arm. So we can feel as the knee pulls out, it pulls this little extension from this purchase point of the shoulder blade. And we breathe into that. So we can feel this stretch comes across the shoulder of the holding arm. Okay, we're going to come back into the center now. Pause there. And we're going to open up the angle of the back of the knee of this raised leg so we can then take hold of the foot or take hold of the shin. Okay, breathe. Okay, now what we're going to do here is we're going to go for a little rocking action. It's going to be from side to side. So the first action will be to roll in the direction of the raised leg and to let yourself roll all the way over onto your side. Okay. That's it. So Julie and Patricia, you might have to negotiate a little bit there because you've done the other leg, Julie. So that's okay with space. And then we'll roll back in, and then we take that leg over all the way to the other side to bring the foot to touch the floor. So that's our action. Hopefully we're all okay in terms of space. And we're going to just keep playing with that rolling back and forth. So the extended leg may lift up off the floor. This is one of the ways we guide ourselves back into the center. It lifts and lowers to pull us back in. And we just play with this rolling. We're going to get a lovely deep stretch across the buttock of the bent leg as we move it into the more twisty sort of side. And we're going to get this wonderful stretch across the upper back, shoulders. So just keep playing with it, just a couple more rounds. Although, you know, I could roll here all day myself. Maybe you could too. Okay, when you're ready, you may bring yourselves back into the center. And we're just going to release that raised leg, place the foot to the floor. Take a few breaths here. Maybe you need to lift up the buttocks from the floor, give them a little shake. That can help release through the lower back and into the groin. And then find your breath again. Find your breath and position yourself in its flow. So we develop this relationship between the internal experience of the breath and the external experience of the breath. As the breath releases out, we kind of open out with that release. When you're ready, draw your other knee in towards your chest. And again, you can give it a hug. You can have a little bit of movement here as you wish. And then we'll extend out the other leg to the floor. That's it, perfect. We're going to take the knee to open the knee out now. So you can keep hold of the knee with the opposite hand. So we get this little lift of the shoulder of that arm. And as that shoulder lifts, we can feel where the other shoulder blade is in contact with the floor. And we can feel a stretch out from that shoulder blade, a stretch out that wraps across the upper back, across the shoulder, and comes down the arm towards the leg. We can breathe into the outer hip of this bent leg and let that area, kind of melt into the stretch. Let your forehead soften, let your jaw release. And then when you're ready, roll it back into the center. Open up the angle of the back of the knee so you can take hold of your foot again. So the knee is being drawn down towards the floor. You can, of course, hold the shin if you need to, if it's too strong to hold the foot. And then again, we're going to go to that same movement. So we can roll towards the bent leg side to start with, allowing ourselves to roll. The leg comes off the mat as space allows. And you can roll all the way over to bring that leg down to the floor, letting yourselves roll onto your outer hip. And then you can roll back in. A little lift of the extended leg may help you to get the momentum to roll. And then you touch the toes to the floor on the other side. And we just keep playing with that action. So we can feel as we roll and move, those little sort of tugs of tissue through the body, little lines of connectivity that we can feel into, that we are extending, and hopefully we're feeling that extension through the back muscles, through the shoulders, into the hip. So just keep it going. Okay, and then again, When you're ready, we're going to roll it back into the center. We're going to bend both knees, place both feet to the floor. We're going to rest our hands on our belly. We're going to walk the feet away. And we're going to take some slow, steady breaths. And we're going to let the pelvic floor soften. So this is the area of a group of muscles that obviously support all of the abdominal organs. So, they don't fall out, basically. The area between the pubic bone and the tailbone. We're just going to allow that area to soften. And we'll breathe into it. And as we breathe into it, what we might be able to tune into, if we're able to really sensitively feel into the pelvic floor area, is that the pelvic floor is a natural mirror of the diaphragm. Sometimes it's called the pelvic diaphragm. So the diaphragm being that sheet of muscle that separates the abdominal organs from the lungs. That is the primary muscle of respiration. And what we can feel as we breathe, and maybe we'll take a couple of deep breaths to feel this, that on the inhalation, there's a little downwards pressure that's exerted against the pelvic floor. And on the exhalation, there is a little buoyancy that comes into the pelvic floor, like a little lift. And we can sensitively tune into that gentle flow or gentle pulsation there that moves with the breath, that attunes the body to the breath. And that may even guide us into an attunement with the energy body, that we may be able to feel into the experience of flow of energy moving, through the body in different directional movements. That we can discern that this is a body of energy. We are, of course, a body of energy. Okay, let's roll ourselves onto the side. So you face towards this side of the room, towards me or towards the screen. We're going to extend out our bottom arm so we can rest our head on it. So move yourselves down the mat if you need to get the arm extended. We are going to bend it up in a moment. So if there's not so much space, as long as you've got the space to do that, that's fine. But we're going to lengthen out the body by pressing this free hand into the floor in front of us and lifting up the rib cage and lengthening the rib cage away from the pelvis. And then coming down to rest your head on your arm. We're then going to bend up this bottom arm. We're going to take the top arm over and we're going to cradle the wrist there in the bottom hand. And we're just going to feel how we can just simply hold the wrist, and there will already be a little bit of pressure being exerted there to pull the arm above the head. And what we can feel into this is we're going to sensitively tune into bringing a stretch through the side of the body from the hip. So you can feel that you can give a little tug to your wrist to stretch up through the waist, to stretch up through the side ribs, to stretch up through the arm. But I want it to be a really sensitive kind of feedback action. So as we pull, we could choose to pull and just kind of, for want of a better word, to yank the arm above our head, but we don't want to do that. We want to feel sensitively that we can pull it into some stretch and then we can ease off when we meet resistance, and then we might introduce a little bit more extension and then we might ease off. So just keep playing into that. And then as we play into that length through the side of the torso here, as we breathe into it, and we feel that lovely juicy stretch out from the waist, We're going to extend that length through the whole of the side of the body. So we'll lift the top leg just a little way, maybe about a foot off the floor, and we'll extend into that foot too. So we can feel that we are teasing the body out from the hips in two directions. And we're breathing into that. Now, you can feel free to move the foot off the raised leg if you wish. You might want to point the toes or reach into the heel, or you might find it really useful to bring a little circling into the ankle so you can play with, not again getting overly caught up in holding the body in a particular position. So movement can be a really good way to navigate any tendency to drop into resistance, which we can sometimes get if we introduce something that's strong and static. We can start to resist it. And it's not that there's anything wrong with something that's strong and static. In yoga, we use those kind of postures sometimes to bring a particular type of engagement to the body, but we want to feel that we are still accessing flow. So sometimes we have to physically move the body to access that flow. So keep playing with that, breathing with it. Let your movement of your body match the movement of your breath, or your breath match the movement of your body. They are inseparable. Okay, let's bring that top leg down now, and then let's slowly release that top arm. Bring it back down. Take a breath. Bringing your hand to the floor in front of you. You can bend up your knees a little, and then you can push into your hand to push yourselves up from your side. We'll fold ourselves over onto our other side. So you can bring yourselves to the other end of your yoga mat. You can stretch out that arm. You can rest your head on your arm. And again, we can make those postural adjustments whereby we press the hand into the floor, we lift up the rib cage, we lengthen it away from our hips. We lengthen the arm away. And then when you're ready, you bend up that lower arm. So your head's still supported by your arm. You're going to bring the top arm over and you're going to hold on to the wrist there. And we're just going to very easily, sensitively feel into this extension here. So we can pull on the wrist a little. We can soften through the waist. And then we can just feel that kind of extending action coming out of the pelvis. So we'll feel it through the waist. We might feel it through the belly tissue. We might feel it through the lower back. We may even feel it into the inner groin. So I can actually discern that I'm stretching out my psoas muscle that attaches to the top of the inner thigh and into the lower back. I can feel in this action it encourages a little length there. And I play again. You dip in and you might dip out. So you wait for the body to be in total agreement to this. And then in your own time, we'll lift up that top leg. And again, we can extend and reach the foot away. You might be reaching into the heel. So you bring your foot into dorsiflexion. That's to point the toes towards the shin. Or you can bring the foot into plantar flexion to point your toes like a ballet dancer. Or you might play with a little movement, rotating the ankle, or, changing the foot into extension and flexion. And we breathe through it. Okay, well done. Let's bring that leg back down. Let's release that top arm in your own time. Bring the hand to the floor. Take a breath. Bend up the knees. Push into your hands. Walk your hands in and come up. Well done. Let's come onto our hands and knees. We'll face in towards the center of the room. You can face so you can see at home. And we've got our hands there, and we're going to place our wrists a little further forwards of the shoulders. We are prepping for downward facing dog, but in this preparation for downward facing dog, we're going to feel into any movement that the body might need. Maybe a little roll through the spine or a circle of the pelvis. Stretching out the body, a drawing back of the buttocks towards the heels to feel that length through the torso. Just play into it. So whatever goes, really. I'd like us to be able to wholeheartedly approach our practice with what we call Shraddha in yoga, which means trust or confidence. So we feel, and that trust and confidence or faith is in our own experience. It's in our own ability to apply viveka, discernment, into feeling what is it that the body needs to pull us into a state of engagement with it, to feel the body, as we are here in these actions that we call yoga asana, yoga postures, to use them for the purpose of ultimately some form of liberation. And that might be that we just, we liberate our hamstrings or our tight hips or shoulders. That can be the liberation that we're looking for. But we can also be looking for a liberated, mind, body, heart, that we're finding freedom. This is one of the, we could say in a way that this is a translation of yoga, which is, of course, union or integration, but the purpose is always this form of liberation. Okay, so we're playing, we're moving around, you're feeling, you're using these movements to get into feeling the body. And then as we start to wake up the body, we're going to lift it into a downward facing dog, and we're going to stretch through it. We're going to reach through the pose by deepening the hands into the floor to rise up through the arms, to rise up through the body. Maybe we'll wiggle across the hips. Maybe we'll bend a knee. You may take a little look towards your hands for a moment without drifting your shoulders forwards, so we can extend through the front of the body, and then you can release your head again. So stretch it out, feel it out, breathe it out. What can you bring to it? And, how can we kind of bring ourselves out of it? So in other words, how can you apply this Shraddha, faith, and viveka, discernment, to your practice to feel and make your practice a transformative practice? And then how can you get yourself out of the way of that? Your own personality being this person who's here in this room practicing yoga. How can we let go of that so we just feel into the pure experience rather than the experience of me, myself, and I performing? So the breath is certainly one of the ways I access that experience of absorption without self. So feel into the breath. Okay, we can come down. We can sit back on our heels. We can perhaps rest our hands on our thighs. Maybe let's go palms up and feel this open space in the center of the palms. Take support if you need it between buttocks and heels or beneath the ankles. And breathe. Let's feel into the release that's coming into the body now. We can almost feel that we flood the body with release, because hopefully this posture doesn't require anything of us in terms of effort, but it simply requires us to be open to feeling whatever it is that this pose is here and now. That's not the technicalities of what Vajrasana, this thunderbolt pose is, but it is the pure lived experience of the posture. That's what I want you to tune into. Okay. We're going to take our arms up in a wide circle. Lift up. Bring the hands together. And then draw the hands back down as you lift up through the body. And you might have a little sort of wiggle, a little shimmy of the body from side to side to keep this lift up through the body. Okay, we're going to raise the arms up in a wide circle again. And this time we're going to lift the hips up from the feet. We're going to extend up. We're going to tone the belly. We're going to lift the chest. Obviously, you can take padding under your knees if you need to. We're going to bring the hands down again. Slowly, feel free to feel into any movement that the body might need. There's a little bit of balance here. We're going to raise the arms up again in a wide circle as we step 1 foot forwards. Bring the palms together. Bring the hands down. Just tuck your toes. In a wide circle again. Lift the back knee and come up. Keep the back heel lifted. Keep lifting. Hands together. Palms in towards each other. Take a step forward to the front of your mat. Release your arms down. Find your breath. Drop your shoulders. And as you drop your shoulders, feel that you drop everything. So we have this phrase, don't we? The weight of the world on our shoulders that sometimes we feel. And you know that it's quite an apt phrase sometimes because, you know, whether we have any worries or, you know, anything that might be ruminating in our mind, it can feel like it's there. So as we drop the shoulders, we drop everything. They are not having to prop anything up here and now. They're just releasing. Okay. Now, let's just take a little step back in the room. You're probably okay at home. You just need a bit of space in front of you. So I just want to make sure that we've got some space and we've got a little bit of space behind us. And we're just going to bring the feet towards hip width apart. They can be in a little closer, but we want some space between the feet. I'm going to play with some movement. So you're going to bring your arm that's furthest from me forwards as you take your other arm back, like that. And then we're going to cross over and go in the other direction. Okay, and we're going to move that a few times, just swinging. Now, as you swing into this, feel free to let the knees bend into this. So you might need to let the knee that you're turning away from bend into it. This will allow more freedom of the pelvis to turn. So just play into that swing, and we can, even if you wish to, you can kind of speed it up again. So you can sort of let the arms be a little bit more fluid in their movement. So it's less kind of stiff. You can let your body move into it and feel into that work that we can start to feel into the trapezius and the deltoids. That's the upper back area and the top of the shoulders. But we just breathe with it. We're not clinging. So this movement is hopefully allowing us to not cling. And we're just feeling into the flow. Feel as you move your arms through the air, you can feel that little brush of the air through your fingers. You can feel your body interacting with the space around you. Any speed is fine. Some of you are slower, some of you faster into this. Okay, let's just slow it down. And then just come to stand. And just again, we can feel this release through the shoulders. And we might find that we need to move the body, perhaps a little roll forwards through the shoulders, so you can bring your arms into this kind of internal rotation forwards. And then this external rotation back as you lift the chest. You can just play with those actions. So again, there's no clinging, nothing remains. So we want to feel that we offer the body back into a kind of neutral experience between each of these actions that we create in our yoga. So there is no, what we would call a samskara being carried over, an impression being carried over. We want to feel that, it's a complete, clear surface that we move from. So we come to pause in Tadasana, a little external rotation of the arms, palms open, a little light tone in the belly, a little lift in the chest. A soft forehead, released jaw, breath flowing, a little buoyancy within the pelvic floor. So that means that there is, an intelligent relationship there. We're not switching it on or switching it off, but we can feel that we can relate to the pelvic floor so it can bring lift through the body. So there's this little light buoyancy, light tone that takes lift through the midline of the body. And as we feel this extension coming up through the center, this opening out into length and space, we feel everything fall away from that. The arms drop. The breath flows. Okay, now we're going to take another little sort of side to side movement and another little movement through the arms. And this time, you're going to raise up your arm that's closest to me, and we can do this together. So it's going to come forwards, and then we're going to take the arm back as we turn. Again, you can bend this back knee into it, and then we return it to the center, and then we reach back. And again, we return to the center. You might pause between each rotation, or you might pick up a more kind of fluid flow that is continuous. So like a little relay race, as the arm returns, the other arm picks up that momentum and moves back. But if at any point you find you want to pause, and that pause might be in a point where you're reaching back, that you feel, I can just play and stay with that stretch and enjoy that wonderful reaching out. And whatever the sensation is that comes into the body, then feel free. We are practicing yoga for freedom. So first of all, how we find freedom is we recognize that we are already free. And that means that you're free to explore, to play with the pose as you wish, as feels appropriate. Okay, we're back in the center. We're releasing our arms down. We can have a little shake, a little shimmy, a little wiggle. Okay, let's interlace our hands in front of us. So when you interlace your fingers, try not to sort of jam your fingers in together at the very base of the fingers. Give a little bit of space. So, make it a loose weave between your fingers. Okay, so it helps to keep us nice and soft. And we'll just let the hands rest there in front of us, like, you know, we were, I don't know, standing in a bit of a formal position that we might stand in. And the feet deepen down, the belly tones, the breath softens. Now, we're going to let the knees be soft now. So we can soften at the ankles and the knees. So we can bring a little bend to the knees, a little slight tilt to the pelvis. And we're going to draw the arms forwards. And we're going to reach out into the arms so we can feel that there's a little rounding into the upper back here, but we're bringing a little bit of tone to the belly. We're not tucking the tail under, so there's still a little natural curvature into the lower back, but we can feel that we are feeling out that stretch across the upper back. We're breathing into it. Okay, then we're going to draw the hands back in. We're going to flip the hands up. And we're going to reach up into the center of the palms. Extend, lift out of the pelvis, lift through the waist, belly is toned. It might be that for one or two of you, the arms are able to extend further back behind you, but it might be that they're further forwards. We breathe into it. And we allow that movement of the arms to come not just from this manipulation of the shoulders, but we'll play with a little movement through the body. We can have a little wiggle across the hips. We can breathe. Okay, we'll bring the palms back in. We'll bring the palms down in front of the body. And again, we're going to take the arms forwards, palms in towards you. So we can just feel into this rounding. We can kind of sit into it a little. Maybe, yeah, you can bounce into it if you like. So you can really feel that deep stretch, hopefully across the trapezius muscle, across the upper back. Okay, pull it back in one more time to raise up, palms turn away. You lift, lengthen, you extend, the belly tones, the chest lifts, armpits open, breath flows. Okay, and then you release your fingers. And we'll release the arms in a wide circle, obviously being aware of our neighbor in the room. And then just let the arms hang down. Find the breath. Find your alignment between the heels and the balls of the feet. So just take a little rock forwards and back. And then see if you can bring your placement to feel that you are equally supporting the body through the balls of the feet and the heels. And then we rise up from that. So we rise up through the legs, we rise up through the waist, we rise up through the torso, we release the shoulders, we soften the forehead, we release the jaw, we breathe. Okay, we're going to bring our feet in towards each other. We can come towards the front of our mat, so we've got a little bit more space behind us. We can have a little bit of space between the feet, so feel into the ankles, knees and hips. I always find that I like to have a little gap between my feet. It feels just more natural for me, but some people like to bring their feet into contact, and that's that works too. So we're going to really soften through the shoulders. So let's just have a little kind of shimmy from side to side, lifting one shoulder and then the other, so we can then release them. And then we're going to bring ourselves down into this sort of seated position. We're going to keep the arms really soft as we hinge from the ankles, knees and hips, as we bring a little tone to the belly, a little lift to the chest. And then you're going to raise up your arm that's furthest from me. We're going to extend into it. You can place your other hand to the top of the thigh for a little purchase, and you can lift and lengthen, and you're going to turn in. You're going to bring the elbow towards the outer thigh. And we might do that a couple of times. Perhaps we might lift, lengthen, and turn into it. And then when we've made good contact there, we can then bring one hand on top of the other. Breathe. Lift up through the chest. So that purchase point is not a means of drawing yourself into a deeper twist, but it's a means of lengthening through the front of the body. Now, find your breath. Find sthira sukhamasana, steadiness and ease in our yoga posture. And then your leg that's furthest from me, you're going to just let that knee fall out to the side for a minute. Just let it roll out to the side. Okay, then you can roll it back in and you keep the weight through your foot that you're on the side that you're leaning on, so you can then extend that leg back, your leg that's furthest from me. Reach back, the one that you're turning away from. Excellent. Breathe. Okay, now we'll release the arms. We'll bring one hand down to the floor. We'll bring the other hand to the top of the thigh so we can stay in the turn. We can breathe, we can reach into the back foot. So if you lift up your back heel, that allows more of an internal rotation through the back leg. If you place your hand into your thigh, you can use that to open the body towards me. You can let your heel move through your back foot if you need to rotate that leg a little more to allow the movement of the pelvis. And breathe. You're welcome to raise the top arm up if that's comfortable. If not, keep your hand there on the thigh. Okay, well done. Let's bring the hand down. We'll step ourselves into a downward facing dog briefly. So we'll reach through the pose. Take some deep breaths into it. Okay, and we'll look forwards and we can walk, step or jump forwards. I'm going to take a little walk forwards, but if you're feeling more energetic, feel free to jump. And then we can stay in this ankles, knees and hips. So we're sitting down and then we can just softly raise the body up. Raise up the arm that is closest to me this time and lift and lengthen and then turn, bring that elbow to the outer thigh. And you might do that a few times. Lift, lengthen and fold yourself into it. Keep going. I'm turning myself around so I can still see you, but you'll be turning away from me. And then when you feel ready to, you can bring one hand on top of the other. Breathe. And then again, with the leg that you're turning away from, you can let that knee just draw out to the side for a moment. So you pick up the weight through the leg that you're leaning on. That becomes your supporting leg. You can then draw that knee back in and then just take a step back with that leg. So it should help with our balance. That's it. We're breathing. Turning to the side, the purchase through the arms and the outer thigh allows you to lift your chest and you breathe into it. Then we may release the hand down to the floor, opposite hand to the front foot comes to the floor. We can keep the other hand on the thigh, we can turn, or we can raise the arm up and you can let yourself rotate on the ball of the back foot as much as you need to get the pelvis moving into it. And take some deep breaths. Okay, let's bring that top hand down. Let's just take a step back. Downward facing dog, deep breaths. Reach through, feel that. Lovely, I think it is a wonderful stretch. I like the stretch through the back of my legs that I can feel through the calves and the hamstrings. I want to welcome that stretch in because it makes me feel alive in my body. Okay, well done. Come down onto hands and knees again, just for a moment. We're going to come down. We'll bring ourselves down onto our back. So come down, lay down, feet in towards the center. And then just take a rest here. Hands on the belly, feet on the floor. Breath flowing. Now I want us to, again, interlace our hands, but we're going to place them behind the back of the head here, like we were just lounging around on a lovely tropical beach somewhere. Have a nice, bony we were, eh? Have a nice soft weave of your fingers again, so keep it a loose weave. And then breathe so we can feel the openness of the armpits to reach out towards the elbows. Breath flowing. Okay, let's bring both legs to the floor. So you might need to lift and extend the pelvis away first of all to bring some length to the lower back. And then we'll bring both legs down. So we're going to keep our head against our hands. It's going to remain on the floor as we just lift the right leg up. Again, maybe a foot and a half away from the floor and reach into that foot. Breathe. Now at first it's fairly easy, but as we stay a little longer, we can start to feel the posture becoming stronger. So how do we negotiate with that increasing effort that's required to hold the leg there? Well, we do it with breath. We do it with calmness, so we can allow our facial muscles to feel, almost completely passive to this. They're not completely passive to this because, of course, they're part of the experience, but they're not reacting to it. Okay, well done. We'll bring that leg down. We'll let both legs release. We'll let the breath release. And we can just feel the thighs softening. We can feel the pelvic floor releasing. We can feel the belly releasing. And then when you're ready, you can raise up your other leg. You can breathe as you reach into the foot. Forehead is soft, jaw is released. And again, you use your breath. You might use movement. You can move the foot. You can move the ankle if you need to. If you find fatigue setting in, and if that fatigue leads to some form of clinging, then we might need to move to find our way around that clinging. Okay, well done. We'll release that leg down. That's it. Just completely let the leg release. Let the forehead soften, let the jaw release. Okay, now the next stage is we're going to raise up both legs if we can. This is going to be much stronger on your abdominal muscles and the lower back muscles. So you might not stay as long, so you can bring the legs in towards each other. And then when you're ready, just lift them up a little way. Now, if it's really strong, you lift your legs up higher. But if you can keep them down low with that tone in the belly, breathe, breathe. Okay, well done. Let's slowly lower them down. Then let everything release. We'll release our hands from behind the head. We'll bring the arms down by our side as we would for Shavasana. It's not quite time that yet, but we'll just let the body just take a little brief Shavasana position. And we'll breathe into it. We'll breathe into all of that wonderful release that's passing through the body. That wonderful offering of ourselves into this state of letting go, of giving to the floor, giving to the moment, giving to the universe. A complete surrender. Okay. Bend your knees, place both feet on the floor. You're going to take your leg that is closest to me, and we're going to thread that foot underneath the other leg and then let that leg just drop out, roll out to the floor. Okay, like you are just about to cross both legs and lay the legs down in Supta Sukhasana. So like a half Supta Sukhasana, so this cross-legged position with that bottom leg tucked under. Okay, now we're going to feel into the stretch through this bottom leg by bringing that top knee in towards us, and this should trigger a little extension that we'll feel perhaps through the inner thigh or the front thigh of that bottom leg. And we breathe into that. Okay, now keeping that knee in towards you, you're then going to cross it over the other leg to descend it towards the floor into a twist. We can take hold of the outer knee, with the hand that's nearby. So opposite hand to that knee. And then your back arm is either releasing behind you, but this can be quite strong on the shoulder. But that's okay, as long as you're able to breathe into it, but you can reposition the arm. Or if you wish, you can take a bind. So you might need to bend up that bottom leg a little more. We can extend this arm down, and we might be able to find the foot with that back arm and catch hold of the foot. So I'll just do it the other way around so you can all see here. So we may be able to take hold. So what we get in a binding action, this is a form of mudra, which means seal. And it is, it's a way of containing energy within the body, but it's also a way of, deliberately disengaging these organs of action, or some of the organs of action, the hands, namely here. So, then they're not pulled into acting as they are all day long. We're very expressive with our hands. They're doing a lot for us, and, they're obviously picking things up, moving things around, but we also use our hands to express when we talk. So to give them something to hold just stops them from being pulled into other activity, and it's deeply settling for the mind, the body. It indicates to the nervous system that, it's time for us to just be. Okay, well done. I want you to roll yourselves back in towards the center. Place both feet on the floor. Feel into any movement that the body might need here. Little rocking across the back of the pelvis, little movement through the knees. And deeper breath or two if you need it. Okay, and then in your own time, you're going to fold the other leg underneath. So it's your leg that's furthest from me is the leg you're going to pick up and fold underneath the leg that's closest to me. You let that knee drop out towards the floor. Take a moment to just pause into that, the stretch that comes into the groin, into the hip. And then you may draw your other knee in towards you. And as you draw that knee in towards you, you'll probably feel the line of connectivity, the stretch that's brought into the leg that's on the floor that we're not actually doing anything with at the moment, but we can feel how we can stretch it out by the movement of this top leg, because the body is entirely connected everywhere. And we breathe into that connection, into that response of the lower leg to the movement of the upper leg. And then when you're ready, we take that top leg over into the twist so it crosses in front of the body to move towards the floor on the opposite side. You bring your hand to the outer knee so we can encourage this movement of the knee towards the floor. Your back arm can either be out behind you, it can be down behind the body, just resting on the floor or even above the body, or it can find this back foot and take hold. So we can hold this little bind to just contain us for a moment, which is something that, we often need, a little bit of containment. And the breath is free, it's easy, it's responsive. So it might be that the breath needs to be guided into a particular part of the body. So you can do that. And as you guide your breath in, you position yourself within that breath. You position the person who's being aware of that breath into the center of it. So our relationship with the breath is less of an objective or an objectifying relationship, but it's a relationship of merging, absorbing, being the breath. Okay, when you're ready, you may roll yourselves back in. You may release both legs and place the feet to the floor. Realign yourselves. Pause there. Breathe there. Feet on the floor. Back of the head on the floor. So if there's any support there, remove it. We're going to bring our arms down by our side. We're going to externally rotate the arms so the palms face up. And take a breath. We can bring the feet in a little closer towards the buttocks. And again, we're just going to feel into that contact between the feet, the sacrum, and the back of the head against the floor. And as we take a couple of breaths, and we can deepen these next couple of breaths, we can feel that inhalation really exerting some pressure through the back of the head, the sacrum, and the feet. And then as we exhale, we can feel the back of the head and the sacrum and the feet kind of releasing to the floor. Okay, we're going to take hold of the sides of our yoga mat now. So you're going to just take hold of them in your hands, and you can walk your hands down. So you're stretching your shoulders down. You might pick up the shoulders one by one, like a little lean of the legs to one side, so you can lift up the shoulder on the opposite side and tuck it under. And then we're going to press into the feet, and we're going to start to lift up the pelvis. Now we might lift and we might work our way up through a few different actions, maybe a little sway of the hips or a little bounce or a little swooping around. And then you can start to bring your hips up, extending into the knees, softening the belly. And we raise the hips. You may, if you've lifted the hips up high, perhaps lift up the heels and go to a little higher height. I'm going to give you an extra option here, so you can either keep hold of the sides of your yoga mat, or one or two of you might want to bring your fingers into that, nice kind of open weave, the interlaced fingers behind your back, and then stretch your arms away into the kind of plow-like position. This is obviously stronger. It's not necessarily for everyone, but you can feel into that. Keep rising up through the hips, rising up through the rib cage, extending into the knees. You can feel that tone that comes into the buttocks, but we don't add any unnecessary tone, so they don't grip together, but they kind of tone in towards their own thighs. Okay, well done. We can release the hands if they are interlaced, and we can release hands from the outer edges of our yoga mat too, and we can slowly roll the back down to the floor, release out the shoulders, step the feet further forward so there's space there at the back of the knees. The calves release, the back of the thighs release, the pelvic floor releases, and the breath releases into this. Okay, I'd like you to roll onto your side to face towards me. We're just going to have a little shoulder stretch. And what we're going to do is you're going to take your lower arm. In fact, you can roll kind of towards your belly. Let's roll onto our belly. This is the easier way to get into this. You're going to take your arm that's furthest from me and you're going to take it out at shoulder height. So the palm is facing towards the floor. You're then going to place your hand that is closest to me into the floor, and you're going to press into the floor, and you're going to let the body kind of roll over onto the side so you've got that arm out behind you, and we're just breathing into that stretch that comes into the shoulder side. It's essentially you're doing this. Okay, and breathe. And you can play with that. There might be a little rocking into it, feeling how you push into your hand, it's going to roll you back, it's going to deepen the stretch, it's going to stretch out pectoralis, the upper chest. And if you roll forwards, it's going to ease off the stretch. So you can play around the edge of the stretch. Okay, wonderful. You may roll yourselves back to your belly and bring your other arm out to the side when you're ready. Take your time and you're going to move in the opposite direction. So arm out, press into the other hand. So you should be turning away from me this time. And breathe and play into it. The more you rotate the body out towards the ceiling, obviously the deeper that will be across the back shoulder, but it's not that we're trying to force that. We're definitely not trying to force anything. We're just feeling into it, playing again around the edge of the stretch. Okay, well done. You may roll yourselves back in to your belly. Stack your hands one on top of the other, palms down, rest your head on your hands, and just pause there. You can lift up your elbows out, extend the elbows out to the side. And breathe. Little rock across the front of the hips. So you can just have this little shimmy from side to side. Breathing. Okay, well done. So when you're ready, you're going to come out of this position. You can come up by placing your hands on the floor, pushing into your hands to come up. And then you're going to come down to lay in your position of Shavasana for our yoga nidra practice. So some of you got the bolsters out, so you might want the bolster underneath your knees perhaps. Our wonderful new Tree of Life bolsters that we're all enjoying. And you can take support if you want support underneath your head. So if you want a cushion, there should be a few little cushions around. If you want an eye pillow, let me know. I'll bring those up. Yeah. So at home, obviously, get yourselves comfortable, warm. You want to be in a position with your chest nice and open. Talking to my onliners while I'm in the cupboards. Okay, there we go. Anyone else for an eye pillow? Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Everyone else happy? Okay. What's that? Chunky. They are chunky. They need a bit of wearing in, but they're nice. Nice colour as well. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? It's what? Yes, yes. Okay, so laying down, closing your eyes. That's it. Take some deep breaths. You know, you can really sigh out as you wish. And then, you know, we lay ourselves down with a deliberate placement of the body to be open across the chest, released in the shoulders, but to feel that the body is fully supported as it needs to be. So, of course, the support here on the floor, but you may feel that you need that support underneath the knees, that you need support under the head. So, and that you need to sometimes adjust the body. Maybe there's a few last little movements in the body that we need to kind of let go of in order to let the body come and find stillness by itself. So we close our eyes and we feel into this wonderful flow of the breath that we've attuned to in the class. We can feel this flow of the breath in and out of the body through the vertical line of the body. We can feel the breath in its action of expanding the body in all directions and then softening the body back in towards its own center with each exhalation. So this flow of the breath brings a vibrancy and aliveness to our experience here. It's a call to awareness that is constantly with us. So as we start to feel into this awareness of the body through the breath, we can visualize our body here on the floor, in this space, in this place, in this position, even within the universe. We could see ourselves here, and we could expand out from seeing ourselves here to seeing ourselves as though we were, rising into the sky, looking at ourselves here, even rising out from the atmosphere to look back to where we would be positioned on this planet. And then we draw our attention fully back in to the body. We expand out to hone back in. So as we feel into this flow of the breath, we may repeat to ourselves internally, I am practicing yoga nidra. And as we repeat that, or after repeating that, we can feel it as an invitation into the nidra state. That we are choosing to drop beneath the surface layer of awareness. There is a deliberate moving into deeper levels of experience. So we get there by feeling into our experience fluidly, without attachment, following flows, allowing experiences to move in, to pass by without any form of clinging. So we'll guide our attention through the body to fully meet each part of our body on all levels of experience that we feel, we may visualize, we may evoke sensations, memories, whatever it might be, that we just allow that to rise to the surface, and then we let it go, like dropping a stone into water. It's gone as we move on. So we completely meet with the whole of our being, each location. And then we completely depart from that location when it's time to move on. So let each location rise up into the forefront of your awareness, starting at the soles of your feet. The toes, the top of the feet, the ankles, your shins, your calves, your knees, the space at the back of the knees, your thighs, your pelvic floor, your buttocks, your lower belly, your lower back, your waist, the back of the rib cage, the front of the rib cage, the heart center, the collarbones, shoulders, armpits, upper arms, elbows, inner elbows, forearms, wrists, the back of the hands, the palms of the hands, fingers and thumbs, neck and throat, the back of the head, your chin, your mouth, cheeks, nose, eyes, forehead, ears, the top of the head. Now visualize your entire body being bathed in light, bright sunshine. And feel as the body is bathed in that light, that it absorbs that light. We take that light into our body. And it illuminates all of the body, our entire experience of embodiment. Then we can allow that light to just soften, almost like a dimmer switch was being turned down. So there's just a sense of a soft, warm glow through the body. And then we'll return to the breath. And we'll take a couple of slower, deeper, more deliberate breaths here. And as we take those more deliberate breaths, we'll repeat internally, my yoga nidra practice is complete. And as we repeat that, we feel that we are offering ourselves back into the waking world. And then you may bring a little movement to your toes and fingers. And in your own time, bending your knees and placing your feet to the floor. If you have a bolster behind your knees, just push it forwards with your feet to place your feet directly to the floor. And maybe another deep breath might naturally come in here at this point. And then when you're ready, you may gently roll yourselves onto your side to turn away from me. And then again, when you're ready, you may roll onto your other side, so you're facing in towards me. And then again, maybe a little more movement to the body, a stretch out of a limb, a deeper breath, or even sometimes passing a hand over the limbs can be nice. And you can bring yourselves up from your side when you're ready. And we're going to close the class together. So you may bring your hands to your heart. Let the breath settle completely. I'm going to chant Om 3 times together. So let's take a deep inhalation to prepare. Thank you all very much. Namaste, Namavaha. A reverence to you all. Thank you, everyone. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your evening. I'll see you soon. Thanks, online crew. Just